Welcome to the Zach of All Trades podcast, where we dive into business, life, growth, and everything in between. I'm your host, Zach Rumfield, and here we're going to talk about the big dreams, the everyday grind, and the inspiration that pushes us forward. Whether it's chasing down your goals, learning from challenges, or exploring new ideas, this is a place for real conversations about building a better life and a better future. Let's get started. Well, I'm excited to start this. I've been wanting to do this for a while now, and I just had some free time this evening to myself, and I thought, why not just go ahead and set the mic up and get started. I'm really hoping I can inspire people with this podcast. This is my first one, and I'm starting simple, no video, just audio. But one of the things I really wanted to talk about in this podcast, thing that's been on my mind, is taking action. And taking action has been a big part of my life in the last 6 months, or I should say it created a big change in my life about 6 months ago. And I was going through a period where I was kind of going from job to job, and we're opening a health optimization studio in the near future, but there's a lag time between now and then with permitting, construction, and just getting all the things set up. So in between now and then, I have to grind. I have to make money. How am I going to support myself, my family? And so I was going kind of from job to job. In the beginning, I pursued professional dance for 3 years, and I met my beautiful fiance through ballroom dance at Fred Astaire Dance Studios, and I'm really fortunate for that time that I had there. But it was time to make a move. I was ready to pursue something that was going to take me to my dreams, something that was going to change the world in a way I wanted to change it. And so I made the leap to leave the dance industry that I had been doing, that I had been in for the last 3 years. And I went into the one thing I knew I could get a job in really quickly, the refinery industry. It's the industry that my dad has been in for the last 40 years. My brother is in it, and a lot of my family and family friends are in it, and I knew I could get a job doing that. I knew they were making good money, and I thought, why not give it a shot? I always told myself I wouldn't, and now I need a job. So I did the refineries for about 2.5 months. I didn't last long. I was like, this is not for me. First job, I was out in South Texas, and it was about 105 degrees every single day, and I was inside a little, if you could imagine the engine of a car. Now blow that up, that engine up into, take that engine and make it as big as a factory, and that's basically what I was working inside of. And it was cool. I learned a lot of good things, useful things, and what I also learned is that no offense to refinery workers, they don't think like me. Not that I'm better than them. Not that there's anything wrong with refinery workers. I just knew that I aspired for more. I wanted more for my life than cranking on bolts and changing gaskets and maintenance on really dirty, oily, hot, dangerous things. And so after my next job, I was actually in the tanks. I was a new construction tank farm under my dad, actually, which was pretty cool. I got to see him almost every day. And, we were in the tank farm in these big, giant, metal tanks, basically, that are, it's 105 degrees outside, but inside those tanks, it's about 130 degrees. And that's not fun. I don't know who in their right mind thinks that is a good way to live, but it's definitely not for me. So what I decided was, I came to my dad one day. I told him, Dad, I'm gonna go back to Houston, and I'm gonna try some other things out. And he was like, are you sure that's what you want to do? You're just on your way to making good money here. And I was like, yeah, I got to get out of here and do what I know how to do. So fast forward, I left the refineries and I came back to Houston. What was I going to do? I had no idea. I went kind of from a sales job that I got hooked up with from a friend of mine in the roofing industry. And it's just kind of funny how this next path kind of it takes me into what I'm doing now, and I'm going to explain how. So I was doing some real estate investing in the beginning and not being very successful with it, very new, and didn't have a lot of time on my hands, and definitely didn't have any money to really invest. So I was playing around with the whole wholesaling and a thing called wholetailing, and I was actually in a Travis Wells is a friend of mine. I met him through my cousin, he's best friends with my cousin. And Travis is extremely successful in the real estate space. And so I was learning from him. I was working with him or for him for a little bit, and he actually hooked me up with this sales job in the roofing industry. He told me, you could potentially make some quick cash. So I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Well, what I was doing was I was basically on Facebook most of the time, connecting with roofers. And, I had to learn how the roofing industry semi-worked from where I was. I just worked from behind my desk. But I had to learn how the roofing industry worked really quickly in order to talk to these guys. And I had to convince them to get on a phone call with me and basically sell them our leads platform, our lead generation platform. And let me tell you, selling leads over the phone to roofers is like trying to sell gasoline to a man on fire. It's really hard. And the reason is there's a lot of scammers, and roofers are very skeptical people. And most of them have been scammed if they had gone through the lead industry, because there's a lot of scam companies out there. Luckily, I worked for a legit company, and I think they do pretty good work. So it was not working for me. So what actually ended up happening was I connected with an old friend from grade school, really, who was up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and he said, "Hey man, it's hail season up here in the DFW area, and a good friend of mine, Austin Gunn, has a roofing company, and I know that you're kind of in the roofing industry, and if you want to really learn how the roofing industry truly works, and you want to potentially make a lot of money in a short period of time, why don't you come up here to the DFW area? We'll get you set up. We'll get you knocking on some doors, and we'll go from there." And so I said, "Oh, what the heck? Why not? Why not just go out there to the DFW?" I'd never been to the DFW before, by the way. That was my first time. And learn about the roofing industry. Learn about. Sorry, I cut out there. I had to deal with a barking dog. But anyways, fast forward. So, took me into the DFW area. I'm knocking on doors. I'm working with a guy named Austin Gunn, who is about as fascinating of a person as it gets. He is graduated from Texas A&M. He's up in the DFW area, and he works for I guess, a company that basically supplies, roofers with material and stuff. And he's doing that for a number of years. Decides he wants to open his own roofing company. So, solo guy on his own goes out and starts his own roofing company. Well, the guy's also an engineer, and I don't know what kind of engineer, but he's some sort of engineer, which means he's really smart, obviously. And so what he does is he ends up creating this app that you can take a picture of material on the roof, and it will use AI to find an exact match of what that roofing material is. That way you can just instantly put in an order and get the exact material for that roof, so you can match the material. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try and explain how that whole process works. I have no idea. But I understand the concept, and it's genius. Last time I spoke with him is actually yesterday, and he said that he's going nationwide with it now, and it's proving to be extremely successful. So, congratulations to him, Austin. I hope you're listening to this, and I want you to know, congratulations to you. I'm really inspired by what you're doing. But anyways, so I'm up there with Austin, and we're out knocking on doors. I've never knocked on doors in my life. Where I come from, people that knock on doors are, you just got to be really, really wary of those types of people. And so, he's teaching me how to knock on doors, how to have these conversations, and eventually I'm getting up on the roof and actually doing the roof inspection. And what I realized was I was really good at talking with people. I was really good at making people feel comfortable and really good at carrying on a conversation. And Austin noticed that right away. I remember him telling me, "Man, you're really natural at this. You're really natural at talking with people." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess I am. I never realized that I was." Well, I was out there most of March of 2025, which was about not even 6 months ago yet. And I learned a little skill. I learned something I was really good at. And so when I came back here, I was still doing that on the phone sales lead generation gig. And people didn't answer the phone. People didn't trust me on the phone. These roofers were, no offense to roofers, you're the worst people in the world at answering the phone. Maybe it's just because they knew it was me calling them. I don't know. But one day I had about 3 scheduled calls. I even confirmed the calls the day before and hours before leading up to the call. Time came to make the call to the roofer. No answer. 3 times in a row. This was on a Monday. After the 3rd time, I said, you know what? The hell with this. I'm not going to make money. I'm not going to provide for my family by sitting here hoping that some roofer in God knows where will answer the damn phone. So I put my phone down and I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go knock on doors. What am I going to sell? I have no idea. But recently I've been seeing this guy on Instagram who sells window cleaning services and makes a heck of a lot of money. And so I said, you know what? I can clean windows and I can talk to people. So I'm going to go and knock on doors and clean people's windows. So I didn't even have equipment. And this is the first time in my life, and this is out of pure frustration, the first time in my life that I took action without even thinking, without analyzing, without drawing up a plan, without trying to make sure I've got all the details down. I had no details, I had no plan, I had no equipment. I just went and started knocking on doors. And so on my first day of knocking on doors, I made $160. I thought, hey, that was kind of cool. Sweet lady, Polish lady, actually reminds me of my great aunt. She's about 90 years old. professor. She was a professor at Rice University, and to this day, she still calls me back to her house to do jobs for her. So it was actually really good. My first client, and I still do jobs for her to this day. And so I sold that job, $160. Didn't have equipment, so I was like, okay, now I've got to go and get the equipment to do this job for the next day. I was going to do it the following day. So I go to Home Depot and I get a squeegee and I get a brush and I get some window cleaning agent, kind of like Windex in a big jug. And I go back there and I clean her windows, $160. And then she asked me, hey, can you remove this junk out of here? Yeah, sure. Here's another $100 for that. And then she asked me, hey, can you do this? I said, yeah, sure. There's another $100 for that. And I thought, wow, all of a sudden, this $160 job just turned into $350. And so my wheels are spinning now. So fast forward, 3, 4, let's see, what are we in? No, end of August? 5 months later, I guess. Easy math. And now it's almost normal if I go out and sell $1,000 worth of jobs in a day. So I went from getting excited about $160 to now I know every time I go out, I can sell $1,000 worth of jobs. And it's just amazing that, if I would have been doing this a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where would I be today? I don't know. But I didn't start that time. I started in April. And so I sold the first job. I start booking my schedule up. I book up so much that I'm having a hard time with dividing my sales, my door knocking, with actually doing the labor, because I'm also the one that's going and doing the labor. So I realize now I'm getting to a point where, and this is kind of around May, is where I'm getting kind of busy. And so my first month I did about $2,000. It was actually in the first 2 weeks. It was the last 2 weeks of April. So last 2 weeks of April I did about $2,500. In May I did about $5,000, and this is in revenue. And then fast forward to July, and here in July, I've actually ended up hiring 3 college guys. Found their contact on the Nextdoor app. They were, sending out ads to do power washing too, and I just messaged them. I said, hey, want to team up and wash windows and do some power wash and make a lot of money? Probably make a lot more money together than we can separate. So yeah. So I hired them on, and we're cruising now. Now I've got 2 jobs going on at one time. I'm like project managing. I'm running from one job to another, making sure everything's going right. Then on my free time, I'm running out and door knocking, trying to get some more jobs to fill up for the future, for the next days, so these guys can stay busy. And we're rocking and rolling. So right around July now, fast forward to July, and we do 14K in revenue in July, which I never thought in my life that I could do power washing and window washing and make $14,000 in a month. This unlocked a whole new thing for me. And it all started with taking action. It all started with taking action without thinking, without a plan, without equipment. It was just purely taking action. And so that totally changed that moment, that back in April. 3 roofers didn't answer the phone. I was done. Because of that, because of pure frustration and a little bit of desperation, I didn't have a whole lot of money. I started and figured out a way to win regardless of my circumstances, regardless of what I knew, regardless of my experience. I found a way to win, and I found a really good way, really profitable way. And so, it just kind of takes me into my point of taking action. I think a lot of people are scared of taking action. I've been there. I know I've been terrified of taking action, or I've overanalyzed taking action and then never took action. How many of y'all right now have this idea that you really want to do? You think it's a great idea. You have everything in place, at least in your head. Everything's in place in your head, and you just know if you can just, boom, do it, you'll be successful. You'll make money. It'll be the best idea you've ever had. But you never take action. I don't have time right now. Oh, I've worked all day. I'm tired now. Oh, whatever. Whatever excuse you have, I promise you, whatever excuse you have, it doesn't outweigh the feeling you get when you succeed by your own hand, by your own action, your own doing. The feeling you get, the confidence that grows inside of you when you take action on an idea you have and it works, it's incredible. You don't have to rely on a boss. You don't have to rely on a company to go to 9 to 5. You don't have to. You make your own schedule. You do what you want. Okay? You don't have to. Show up and hope to God that you still have a job the next day, that you're going to make. That you. What am I trying to say? I don't even know. I'm getting excited here. I'm getting excited because I will never again in my life work for somebody. I will never again have a boss. So anyways, I got cut off there. My fiance called me. She's on her way home. I've got to get dinner prepared. We're having salmon and rice tonight. Salmon bowls. We call it salmon bowls. Salmon, rice, avocado, olive oil. I like to put like a little squeeze of lemon and some cucumbers in there too. Really good stuff. Anyways, so I will never again work for somebody in my entire life. And that's a good feeling. I don't ever have to rely on anybody but myself. That's a good feeling. And I know I can go out tomorrow and I can make $1,000. And the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And it's just uphill from here. And you know what's also cool? When you start doing this and other people start seeing it and they start getting inspired by it and you start getting messages about, hey, this is inspiring. I want to try this. I want to do this. What equipment do I need? What should I? You start getting those messages. That's freaking cool. Because now you're inspiring people. Now you're not just making your life better. You're making other people's lives better. And so that's what I've experienced over the last 6 months. It's been really cool, and I want to keep it on with this as long as I can. Now I'm fixing to take over another venture anyways here in just a bit. So this was just supposed to, be for me to make a couple of, just to get by until that new venture happens. But it's just exploded into this really, really cool business. And I got to get some guys hired on so they can take over the business when I take over the other one. But man, just taking action. Just taking full on action. Don't think. Don't overanalyze. To get started, you don't need anything. When you get started, you need to start making sure you're focusing on the details, right? But to get started, I didn't even have equipment. I'd never cleaned windows before in my life, except with like Windex. I watched some videos on how to do it. Now, I'm a freaking